All right. So this is going to be Daniel 14. Daniel 14. So like I said earlier, I'm going to be adding more videos to this playlist. It was supposed to be ending soon. I'm adding a lot more videos because I have a lot more material. I feel like it's justified putting in here that's actually going to be a blessing to you. So these studies are not easy to make, and they take a long time to put together. And it's a lot of studying, because when I put studies together, I don't just get verses that sound like they agree and then I make a study. I also look for stuff to see if it contradicts what I'm teaching you. So these studies are not easy. But nevertheless, these extra studies I'm going to be putting in this playlist. The problem, though, is that a lot of it is dipping into Daniel 11, like I said before. So there's just some stuff, unfortunately, that you're going to have to kind of take it for granted until I can make that playlist on Daniel 11 where I can actually thoroughly expound it. But by this point, I've given you so many verses on this topic, more than I know you've heard from any other teacher, that you should at least be willing to just give me, just bear with me on some of the things I can't touch on right now because I don't have the time for it. And just, give it a chance. Now, today's study, keep an open mind. Okay, keep an open mind. This is a very hard study. We're going to be doing the 10 kings of the Antichrist. I'm going to be helping you identify who they are. But who they are might be a tough saying. So we're going to start. Now, before I do that part of the study, I just want to review, and I just want to talk a little bit and about the timeline or the time of the end. I'm trying to just paint this picture for you and make things more clear as we go into the time of the end. So there are details that I intentionally leave out in the older videos, but now that I've touched on their topics, you're starting to notice as I progress, I'm starting to add more on the specifics on the kingdoms. But like I told you with the leopard, we're still not even done studying that. But I have to get through this, and then I'll get to other videos on it. So okay. So once again, let's just review. So you have that reminder. There's a church age rapture. With the church age rapture, Israel rises to power in a war brewing on the Mediterranean. So all the nations on the Mediterranean, striving on the Mediterranean Sea, Israel rises as a world power for a couple years, 3 years-ish to be specific. And their rising to a world power is met by the white rider, the man of sin, who is called obviously by the devil, as a counter to the Jews and the 144,000 apostles that are preaching the gospel of the kingdom to the Jewish people. Okay. And when it's time for the conditional rapture to take place, God chastises Israel, okay, by using the bear. And the bear is a revived Assyrian Empire, and that bear attacks Israel in a world war. And it's from that part of the beginning of sorrows where you get the red rider. And the riders, like I told you, they're not the beasts. The riders are just representing what happens in that period of time when that event takes place. So the white rider is the man of sin. But when this world war goes off, the red rider represents that. And that's exactly what he said to do. He has a great sword and he takes away peace from the earth. So the 7-year tribulation system is stupid. There's no 3.5 years of peace, okay? Even in their system, there's no 3.5 years of peace. The Red Rider takes away peace from the earth, okay? So once the Red Rider takes away peace from the earth and that world war happens, Israel is chastised by God because Israel refuses to come to the supper for his son. So once this takes place, the world is freaking out, and all the nations of the world get together to destroy Iran, and scatter the Iranians, because now the world actually has to step in to stop Iran because they set off a nuclear bomb. The formation of the new United Nations is a cause of this, because like it happened in the past, the League of Nations formed after World War I. The United Nations in New York City was because of World War II. So when this World War happens, it's going to be another one after World War III. But the thing is, this new United Nations is going to be in Egypt. And Mystery Babylon, which was once in the Vatican, the Roman Catholic Church, the Vatican will fall around this beginning part of the War of the Winds, and Mystery Babylon has to go somewhere else. She has to go somewhere else because you were told that there are 7 heads of the dragon, okay? 5 are fallen, 1 is, which was Rome, and the other is not yet come. Well, it hasn't come yet, okay? It hasn't come yet until you get to this period. When you get to this period, you're going to have the leopard show up, and Egypt rises as the leopard, and dominion is given unto it. At the same time, the black rider shows up representing worldwide famine. So in that sense, history repeats itself, where Egypt is going to be the main stronghold of all the finance and the food in the world, and all the world is going to have to come to Egypt. They're going to have to come to the man of sin in order to get their food, right? Now, this Egyptian empire, now this is where it starts to get tough. Right now, we're in the beginning of sorrows, okay? But this Egyptian empire is the 7th head of the dragon, but you're told that there's an 8th head of the dragon that goes into perdition, right? So what's going on here? Well, it's simply that after the leopard, there's another beast, and that monster beast is a combination of Israel, Assyria, and Egypt as one beast nation. We haven't discussed that yet. That's going to be the next video. Okay, so what happens is the 7th head of the dragon, which is Mystery Babylon, Egypt, because Egypt will be in Cairo. Now that's one of the things about Daniel 11. We can't talk about that right now. But the new United Nations will be in Cairo, and the man of sin, the Assyrian, this 7th head of the dragon is going to be Egypt during the beginning of sorrows. But when you get to the monster beast, it's a combination of Israel, Assyria, and Egypt as one combined empire. Now, in the time of in the Great Tribulation, the son of perdition, that monster beast, is going to have dominion of the whole planet. But this kingdom here, during the Great Tribulation, the kingdom of Egypt is primarily politically composed of Assyria and Israel annexed together. So it's Egypt, Assyria, and Israel together as one combination nation, and that's the primary stronghold of Egypt, with Alexandria as the capital. Now, I'm not going to get into that. Daniel 11, right? So this is Egypt, and this is also Egypt. Okay? The 7th head of the dragon and the 8th head of the dragon are the same empire. It's just now this is Egypt during the beginning of sorrow under the man of sin. But when the son of perdition shows up after the man of sin commits the abomination of desolation, he's killed, he's assassinated. He comes up from the dead, or his deadly wound was healed. And you have this now supernatural government taking place with the devil in the flesh, in person. And that's going to align with the pale rider, who's said to have death and hell. It says, and death and hell followed him. That's going to be over here. Now, I want to show you that. Go to Daniel chapter 7. Daniel chapter 7. This order is very important because I want to show you the kings of the Antichrist, but you first have to understand that this Egyptian empire under the leopard is not the Egyptian empire under the monster beast. They are 2 different versions of Egypt, but they're still Egypt. So in Daniel 7, God says to the leopard, and dominion was given unto it. Well, it still has dominion after the abomination of desolation. It's just, this is a super powered version of the animal, right? And what's interesting, go to Daniel 7. It says in verse 7, and after this I saw in night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly. It had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. Careful, look at that. This beast in Daniel 7:7, the 4th beast, the monster beast, has, look, 10 horns. But the leopard doesn't have 10 horns, which means the leopard and the monster beast are 2 different beasts. And I'm pointing this out because I think that people are confused on the 10 kings of the Antichrist. They're like, well, it must be like Jeff Bezos or like some guy, like some Facebook CEO guy or whatever. But that's not what it is, man. That's not what it is. The 10 kings of the Antichrist are not over here in the church age. They're not here in the beginning of sorrows. They don't show up until the pale rider shows up and the son of perdition and the great tribulation. They don't show up until after the abomination of desolation. You understand? You understand? Now, the confirmation for that is that please stay in Daniel 7. Go to Revelation chapter 17. Revelation 17. Just want to show you this. Do you understand what's going on here? Revelation 17. Look what it says about these 10 horns. Revelation chapter 17 and verse 11. And the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th and is of the 7 and goes into perdition. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. Okay, so look at that. The 10 kings receive power with the beast, not the man of sin. Okay, so you have the white rider over here with Israel. Then you have the red rider around the time of the bombing with Iran. Then you have the black rider, the famine showing up around the time when the leopard, Egypt, rises as the leopard nation. And then when the abomination of desolation takes place and God begins the great tribulation, this is a special kingdom reigned over by the son of perdition with 10 kings of the Antichrist. And that matches with pale rider. Now, what's going to happen is that when this monster beast shows up, okay, we haven't talked about this yet. This is going to be in the playlist. When this monster beast shows up, the son of perdition betrays the new united nation and destroys Mystery Babylon. Okay, that's important. So this version of Egypt with the leopard is destroyed by the son of perdition. And Mystery Babylon falls, and the son of perdition will reign. Yes, he annexes Israel. Yes, he defiles the temple and all that stuff, but he'll be in Alexandria. Now, we can't, like I said, we can't talk about this right now because this is Daniel 11 stuff. But we're going to go to Daniel 11. Daniel chapter 11. Unfortunately, I have to dip into this chapter a little bit to really talk about this, but just bear with me. In Daniel chapter 11, verse 36, verse 37, and verse 38, you are in a prophecy about the time of the end. And it says in verse 39, talking about the devil, the son of perdition, thus shall he do in the most stronghold with a strange god, his idol, whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory. So in verse 38, you have the son of perdition honoring the god of forces. Now he's honoring Satan, but that reference, God of forces, is also talking about something else. It's talking about gods of war, but I'm not going to get into that right now. And it says, a god whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold and silver and precious stones and pleasant things. Thus shall he, the son of perdition, do in the most strongholds, which is Cairo and Alexandria, with a strange god, whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory. So the Antichrist, the son of perdition, is going to magnify this wicked god, this idol that he has, and he's going to offer to it what? Gold, silver, precious stone, and pleasant things. But watch how strange this is in verse 39. And he, the son of perdition, shall cause them to rule over many and divide the land for gain. So the son of perdition, it didn't say that he's going to give it to the idol. I know the idol comes to life because of Revelation, the book of Revelation. But it didn't say that the idol is the one ruling over many. He says that the son of perdition, and he shall cause them to rule over many. Well, who's them? Right? So the Antichrist in verse 39, the son of perdition, he's causing them to rule over many. Now, these people, these thems, they show up in the Bible time to time, and they are very hidden. In fact, we probably missed them. They show up in the New Testament too, right? Okay. Now, before we can identify who this them is that the Antichrist is giving power to, consider this. We read it in Revelation 17 that these 10 kings are given power 1 hour with who? The beast. The beast is the son of perdition. So although the Antichrist, the son of perdition, is a narcissistic moron, Evidently, he does share some of his power with 10 particular special individuals. So this is not Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg and Charles Schwab and whatever. Okay? That's not what this is. That's not what these are, man. All right. So let's look at this in Daniel 7. Just want to show you one more detail before I identify them for you. Daniel chapter 7, verse 23. Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms. It shall devour the whole earth and tread it down and break it in pieces. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom, what? Are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall rise after them. He shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings. Okay, let's try to figure out what this is talking about. Go to Daniel chapter 7, same chapter, and go to verse 8. And I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn, the little horn is son of perdition, were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. Okay, so in Daniel chapter 8, verse 7, it says that the little horn, there's 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. Nobody knows what this means, but I think I know what it means. We know that beasts represent the nations, and we know that horns represent kings. So what I think is happening here is that when the son of perdition shows up, it's implied in the text that the lion beast nation and the bear beast nation and the leopard beast nation have what? Their own respective kings, their own respective horns. You understand? I actually just realized right now you can't even see it on the video. Let's see if I push it back. There it is. You see that? So if each of these beast nations have their own respective horns, their own respective kings, then all you're reading here in Daniel 7 is that the Antichrist, the little horn, is plucking up the kings of these 3, which is exactly what he's doing, because the government that's in the monster beast is a supernatural government. It's not a human government. The guy leading it, the son of perdition, is a supernatural being in a body that, like a zombie body. Okay? So he's coming in and he's plucking up the horns, the kings of the 3 beast nations that preceded him. So the horns, I think in Daniel 7:8, are implied. And that's what you're reading in verse 24. It says there's 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall rise after them. Well, it's possible. It's actually kind of worded in verse 24. Another king's going to arise after them, the 10 kings. Well, that's weird because the beast shows up. I don't know what that's talking about. But it says that he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings. Well, if this passage here in verse 24, the one arising after the 10 kings is the son of perdition, which doesn't really make a whole lot of chronological sense. He comes up from the dead and then they come, but whatever. I don't understand everything in the Bible. Then that would mean that he's subduing these 3 kings. Possibly. Nobody really knows for certain. This is just my theory, but it's up for debate. Okay, so who are these mysterious them that the son of perdition is giving power to and dividing the land for gain in Daniel 11? Well, go to Daniel chapter 2. Daniel chapter 2. Daniel chapter 2 and verse 42. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. Verse 43, and whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, watch it, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. Well, if I draw the foot here on the image of the foot progresses and gets worse and worse until you get to the 10 toes of the 10 kings of the Antichrist. And what are they said to be? The 10 toes is said to have clay, miry clay mixed with iron. We talked about how the beginning part of that section, the potter's clay, and the iron is the Jews trying to mix with Egyptians because Egypt is the iron furnace. But once you get to this part of the 10 toes, it's miry clay and iron. And it says in this part of the text, this can't be regular human beings because it says in the text, and they shall mingle themselves not with men, with the seed of men. Implying what? Something of a sexual nature is taking place here. You understand what's going on here? Who are the beings in the Bible that are not human that at some point were said to mingle with the seeds of men? You know who that is? The angels. Iron does not mix with clay. You're made from the dust of the earth, the clay. Remember what Job said? Lord, wilt thou bring me? Thou hast made me as the clay, and wilt thou bring me into the dust again? Right? So let's continue. So you're saying, so I'm going to contend that the 10 kings of the Antichrist are not 10 humans. I'm going to contend that the 10 kings of the Antichrist are the angels. Let's talk about this. What are angels in particular? Well, go to the book of 1 Peter, and let's do a little, this is a basic doctrine you should already know. If you're this deep in the Bible, this is a basic doctrine to you about what Jesus was doing in the heart of the earth. Now, what are angels exactly? What does the Bible say about them? Well, first of all, they are spirit, not souls. They are spirit. Jesus preached condemnation to spirits. Go to 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 19. By which also he, Jesus, went and preached unto the spirits in prison. What spirits? All sometime were disobedient, when once the long suffering of God waited in the days of Noah while the ark was a preparing, wherein few, that is 8 souls, were saved by water. Okay, so what's the context of the spirits? The days of Noah. The days of Noah. Interesting, right? Okay, so let's continue. You were told in Daniel 2 that the angels mingle themselves with the seed of men. If you look at the spiritual hierarchy in the Bible, angels are the next thing above us. Okay? The Bible says that thou hast made him a little lower. Look, a little lower than the angels. In Hebrews chapter 2 about Jesus. But that quotation that Paul applies to Jesus in Hebrews is actually about Adam in the book of Psalms. Okay? If you don't know what I'm talking about, here, go to Hebrews chapter 2. Hebrews chapter 2 and verse 5. For unto the angels hath he not put subjection of the world to come, whereof we speak. But in one certain place testified, saying, what is man that thou art mindful of him, or the son of man that thou visitest him? Thou madest him a little lower than the angels. Thou crownedest him with glory and honor, and didst set him over the work of thine hands. According to Psalms 8, 4-6. Well, when that was written in Psalms, that was supposed to be about Adam. But because Adam fell, Paul is saying, no, this is actually about Jesus Christ. Now, Jesus in the Old Testament appears as the angel of the Lord. So when Jesus incarnates as a man, what does it say about him? He's made a little lower than the angels. You understand? So we're just now. Can you even fathom that? What is a little lower than the angels? What does that even mean? Okay, Jesus, the angel of the Lord in the Old Testament, killed 185,000 people with just one anime swing, bro. So what does that mean? A little lower than the angels. How much is a little? Can you quantify that? I have no idea. Okay, so a little lower than the angels. Now, what's interesting is that the only person in the Bible we have that's any sort of reference to the power and strength of an angel would be Samson. Have you noticed in the Bible that, like, okay, so the Greeks saw the story of Samson and then they invented that whole thing about Hercules, right? And then the giants or whatever, right? But if you really think about it, do you read anywhere in the book of Judges of Samson being like this jacked guy that's like buff? No, it doesn't say that about him. Now, you might think this is like an irrelevant detail, but Samson killed how many people with the jawbone of a donkey? You know how heavy a jawbone is? And he was swinging it like normal, man. Samson's power when the Spirit came upon him and fell and came into him, is probably the only thing in the Bible we have that's comparable to that of an angel. And even then, Samson's not really 100% there, right? But nevertheless, an angel's power in the Bible is said to be described in the book of 2 Peter, chapter 2, verse 11, whereas angels, which are greater in power and might, bring not railing accusation before the Lord. They are greater in power and in might. Now I want to look at another verse. Go to Psalms 103. What else are said about the angels? Psalm 103 in verse 20. Bless the Lord, ye his angels, that excel in strength and do his commandments. So they are very powerful. Angels are not to be messed with. So when Michael is said to be the archangel, it makes you wonder how powerful Michael is, right? Although not much is said about him. So if angels are this powerful, and they're made a little lower than, and we're made a little lower than the angels, when these 10 kings of the Antichrist show up, you then have to ask yourself, well, if they are mingling with the seed of men, and in the days of Genesis, they were mingling with the seed of men, then it makes me wonder, how many angels in Genesis fell? How many angels? Who are the spirits here that are bound in prison in 1 Peter chapter 3? Jesus enters into hell. He looks in the prison that he has these guys bound up in, and he's preaching to these spirits condemnation. He goes to Abraham and preaches the good news that they're not going to be stuck in paradise anymore. They're going to go to heaven. But the question makes you wonder, these spirits are in prison. How many of them fell in the days of Genesis? I contend that these 10 kings of the Antichrist were the angels that originally fell in the days of Genesis. But God has kept them and reserved them for the Great Tribulation. Now you're like, whoa, what? There's just no way. Well, first of all, I want you to look at Revelation chapter 17 and read the wording of the text. And I'm going to show you a lot of details on this. I'm trying not to go too fast. Revelation chapter 17 and verse 12. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings. Look at it. Read it carefully. The 10 horns of this king, of the 10 horns of the beast, are what? Are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as of yet, but receive power as kings. How are they 10 kings if they don't have a kingdom? It says when they get the kingdom, they receive power as kings. But the prophecy here says that they are kings. How can they be kings without a kingdom? Unless at one point in history, they were kings with a kingdom and they lost it. Go to Psalms 82. Go to Psalms 82. So you have to think about verses when you read them. Every word of God is pure. God phrases and words things particularly for a reason. Psalm 82 in verse 1. God standeth in the congregation of the mighty. He judgeth. Look, he, God, judgeth among who? The gods. The gods are the angels, dude. Keep reading. How long will ye, the gods, judge unjustly and accept the persons of the wicked, Selah? Defend the poor and fatherless, do justice to the afflicted and needy, deliver the poor and needy, rid them out of the hand of the wicked. They know not, neither will they understand. They walk on in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are out of course. Now watch it. I, God speaking, have said, ye are gods, ye are children of the Most High, but ye shall die like what? But ye shall die like men, which means these gods are not men, and fall like one of the princes. Now, the gods here, he says that they are children. These gods are children of the Most High. So what are the angels called in Job and Genesis chapter 6? They're called the sons of God. Why are the angels called the sons of God? Because the book of Hebrews says that God the Father is what? Father of spirits. So he's a father, a spiritual, God is a spirit, and he's the father of the angels, other spirits. So he calls them here the gods, children of the Most High. And they're going to what? They're going to die like men. So what this seems to indicate is that at some point in history, these 10 kings, listen, these 10 kings of the Antichrist, these are the original angels that fell all the way in the pre-flood days. And that's not that crazy. Because in the Garden of Eden, when the devil tempted Eve, he said, ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. God appeared to Adam and Eve as the angel of the Lord. God the Father did not appear to Adam and Eve. The one in the Garden of Eden was Jesus. That said, Adam, where art thou? That was Jesus. That was the angel of the Lord. When the devil told Eve that ye shall be as gods, if the gods are the angels, that means the angels were there. Because like I taught you in the Spirit World series, they were there. Because in the original creation, before Adam was created, heaven and earth were together. But then when the devil fell, God split the firmament and split heaven and earth so that they wouldn't be together. And so the angels, when they show up in the Bible, they appear like men and they show up like men. And so they were in the garden. Otherwise, what did the devil mean by that? Are you smarter than the devil? What did he mean when he said, you shall be as gods? Because they were there. The gods were there. Okay, now, we talked about earlier that these angels were in prison. Jesus preached and preached to them in prison. Peter called them disobedient. Okay, go to the book of Jude. Go to the book of Jude. Jude. Verse 6. And the angels which kept not their first estate, heaven, but left their own habitation, hath he reserved in everlasting chains under darkness unto the judgment of the great day. Now, I'm going to correct the teaching, because I got this wrong. But the great day here is not that the angels are going to be judged at the white throne judgment. That is wrong. That is wrong. The great day in the Bible, every single time it shows up, is a reference to the second coming of Jesus Christ. It is never a reference to the white throne judgment. So I want to correct that teaching here. Let me show you some verses on that. Go to Zephaniah 1:14. Zephaniah chapter 1. Zephaniah chapter 1 and verse 14. The great day of the Lord is near. It is near. You see that? The great day of the Lord. This is a second advent prophecy. Here, next one. Go to Joel. Joel chapter 2. Joel chapter 2 and verse 11. And the Lord shall utter his voice before his army, for his camp is very great. For he is strong that executeth his word. For the day of the Lord is great and very terrible. Here's another one. Joel chapter 2 and verse 31. The sun shall be turned into darkness, the moon into blood, before the great and terrible day of the Lord come. Malachi chapter 4. Malachi chapter 4 and verse 5. Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. You see that? Okay, I just give you 4 verses. So if we go back to Jude, the Bible says in Jude 6 that the angels were reserved in everlasting chains unto the judgment of the great day. If the judgment of the great day, listen, look, check it out. This is the second advent. Okay? If the great day, when I just showed you 4 verses, is a reference to the second coming of Jesus Christ, and the angels are reserved unto this day to be judged by Jesus when he comes back, that means that they have to be released before the great day to be judged at the great day. Do you understand? They're reserved to it, but they're in prison. Right? They're in prison. So that means that they're being let out and they're going to reign with the beast. And then Jesus will come on the second advent and he will judge them at the great day of the terrible day of the Lord, right? You understand? That's why it says they're reserved in everlasting change unto, reserved unto it. So they have to be around before it. You understand what's going on here? Now, what this means, what this all means, is that it's actually kind of crazy. What this means is that the angels were put on earth by God for 2,300 years to teach humanity. Okay? To teach humanity. The purpose of the angels being walking around and being kings of the earth were to be God's mediator. And you know why the Bible says that you're not supposed to worship angels? You know why the Bible condemns the worship of angels and idols? You know why God gets so angry about that kind of stuff? You know why an angel right now cannot be your mediator? Because it was already tried in the days of Genesis and it didn't work. You say, why didn't it work? Well, let's start with detail number 1. Verse 7, the angels and what they did is likened to what happened in Sodom and Gomorrah. Verse 7, even as Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities about them in like manner, giving themselves over to fornication and going after strange flesh. And the angels are set forth for an example, suffering the vengeance of eternal fire, eternal damnation. So then Jesus says, depart from me, ye cursed, into everlasting fire, prepare for who? The devil and his 10 angels. And they, the angels, are an example of how God is going to take vengeance on a wicked being. And if you don't repent and believe in the Lord Jesus Christ, you will suffer the vengeance of eternal fire and burn in hell forever. And the angels are your example of that. Now, what did they do? They did like what happened in Sodom and Gomorrah. What happened in Sodom and Gomorrah? Bestiality and sexual sin. So all the mythology in the world is about how there's a half human guy and a half horse and a half this and a half that. And all the Greek mythology and all the Roman mythology is always about how some god is trying to teach the puny humans how to build stuff and how to do stuff. Because the stupid humans don't know what they're doing, but they need the gods to help and teach them, like Zeus and Osiris. And you see that? Where are they getting that idea from? Where are these mythologies and these stories and these myths getting the idea that some supernatural god has to come down and teach me how to do human stuff? Yes, because for almost a third of our history, that's exactly what was happening. But you notice, go to Genesis chapter 6. Go to Genesis 6. Who does God blame this sin on? You see, think about it, guys. If the angels were mingling with the seed of men in Genesis, well, would an angel do that if they're in the presence of God and they see God all the time and they're cheering hallelujah and they're with God having fun? No. So why would the angels be tempted to mingle with the seed of men? That would mean that they were in proximity to men. They were in proximity to commit bestiality. You understand? They could only be tempted if they were down here. So then Jude says they left their first estate. Now watch it in Genesis chapter 6. Verse 1, and it came to pass that men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God, this is not, what's his name? I don't remember his name that runs Jack Chick. He says that this is not talking about angels. These are not human beings. The sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and took them wives of all which they chose. And the Lord said, my spirit shall not also strive with man, for that he is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. And there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that. When the sons of God came unto the daughters of men, they bare children in them, and the same became mighty men which were old, men of renown. Now, if you are of the seed of Cain, and you are wicked, and you want to overthrow the 10 angel kings that God set up, because you hate God, and you want to take over, what is the trick that the people in these days used to get the angels to fall? It's the trick that's been played in history hundreds of times. You get a little pretty lady and you tempt them, you understand? Some angel in heaven beholding the glory of God is not going to come down and be like, oh yeah, pretty lady. No, they're not going to do that, dude. They're with God. But if they're down here in the proximity of men, that'll work. So you know how that's a repetitive theme in the Bible? Women being used to destroy leaders and kings and men. That's a repetitive theme in the Bible. Delilah, Jezebel, right? Mystery Babylon is a woman spirit, a female spirit said to deceive the nations, and they partake of her fornications. Why? Because she's attractive. Now I know that sounds a little misogynistic, but I'm just talking Bible here, dude. The angels were tempted and deceived by the women. And you know what's interesting? God does not blame the angels for the sin. It says in verse 5, and God saw that the wickedness of who? Man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. You see that? God says that the wickedness of man, not the angels. He blames men. Because the angels were already good when God made them, and he put them there to teach man. But man decided that they wanted to overthrow what God had set up. So the angels fell. And when they fell, God brought them down to hell after the flood. The flood killed them. They died like men. God brought them down to hell. He chained them in prison. Jesus is coming down there and preaching condemnation to them. And then when Jesus leaves, we're in the church age, blah, blah, blah. And one day, when the Antichrist shows up, he's going to have that land in Daniel 11 that he said that he gave them rule. Well, he's going to give it to these guys. Right? Now check this out. Check this out. Go to the book of Revelation. Revelation chapter 9. I told you this is a very hard study. This is a very hard study. I'm trying to be very specific with my words. This is not easy to teach. Revelation chapter 6. Actually, I made a mistake. Revelation chapter 6. So what did I tell you before about the riders of the time of the end? The pale rider represents the son of perdition, the same way that the white rider represents the man of sin. So look what it says in Revelation chapter 6 and verse 8. And I saw and behold a pale horse, the son of perdition, and his name that sat on him, look, was death. The name of the son of perdition. The name of the pale rider is what? Death. Watch it. And hell followed with him. Okay, so something is coming out of hell that's following death. That's following the son of perdition. Who's that? Well, it can't be the weird goblin monsters in Revelation chapter 9. Revelation chapter 9, the beasts that come out of hell, in verse 5, it says, and to them it was given that they should not kill them, but they should be tormented 5 months. So these weird alien monster beasts, whatever, in Revelation chapter 9, are said to torment men, not kill them. And it specifically says about that men shall seek death and shall not find it. Right? But in Revelation chapter 6, it says that hell followed with death, with him, and power was given what? Unto them. Look, them. They show up again. Interesting. Power was given unto them to do what? To kill with the sword, with hunger, with death, and the beasts of the earth. So these monsters in Revelation chapter 9 don't have the power to do that. But this beast coming out of hell do have the power to do that. Now you might say, well, brother, okay, this is getting crazy. So how are these angels who were stuck in hell, in prison, coming out of hell to follow us on a perdition? How are they going to do that? I mean, don't you see the devil and his angels show up in Revelation chapter 12? Right? Well, consider this. Jesus went down into the heart of the earth as the Son of God to free his Old Testament saints. And he led captivity captive. So the man of sin dies. The man of sin dies. And his soul goes to hell. But the devil goes down into the heart of the earth. To do what now? Well, Peter said that the spirits, the disobedient spirits, were bound in prison. Jude said they were in everlasting chains. And so the son of perdition, the devil, while he's in the heart of the earth 3 days and 3 nights, like a counterfeit, will lead captivity captive of his angel buddies and wage a war against heaven. He's a counterfeit. Everything he does is a counterfeit of Jesus Christ. Because he's not original, dude. The devil can't create anything. He can only copy what's already been done. So Jesus led his people captivity captive. So the man of sin dies and the devil leads captivity captive. He brings out his angel guys and goes to fight a war in heaven. But when he's kicked out, he enters into the body of the man of sin, rises from the dead, and his 10 angel kings come down and they say, we are the aliens that you guys have been looking for the whole time. We were the guys that were there that built the Mayan pyramids and the Pyramid of Giza. We built all that stuff. We have the secrets of Area 51. And yeah, you see how all the TV media and the TV shows and the games and the movies is pre-programming people about the existence of other life and aliens and supernatural beings from another world? Yeah, because they're real, dude. They're just not from Jupiter. They're not from Saturn. The angels are in the pit. They're in hell. They're not here running around right now. They're not here right now in the church age. Okay? They haven't been. They're chained in hell right now. And the devil's going to free them to fight against God in heaven. So the one following death, the son of perdition, hell following him, that's them, man. Now watch this. Watch this. Revelation 13. I'm not done yet. I am not done yet. So after the deadly wound is healed in Revelation chapter 13, when the beast comes back from the dead, it says in verse 3, and I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and the world wondered after the beast. Look, and they, who is they? Well, I'm not going to fault anybody for misreading this, because I misread this too. But when you read the they here is not the world. The world is not the one worshiping the beast, because it says here that it says that they worship the dragon. When the devil comes back from the dead, I don't think people are going to know that that's the dragon. Now, okay, just so I'll confuse you. The beast is the son of perdition. The beast is not the dragon, but he's one with the dragon. Like how Jesus is God, and he's one with the Father, but Jesus is not the Father. Okay? So, but it says that they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. Well, the world's going to see the beast. They're not going to see the dragon. Because the dragon, Satan, is a spirit. You can't see him. But who would know the identity of the dragon? Somebody who's already known him in the past and has been with him. So when you read this here, and they worship the dragon, which gave power unto the beast, and they worship the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast, and who can make war with him? The idea is he just destroyed the United Nations. He destroyed Mystery Babylon. And the 10 supernatural angels are standing in front of the world and saying, who can make war with this guy? They're like his ambassadors. The kings, these 10 angel kings are like his ambassadors. They're his angels. So the same way that God the Father gave Jesus power and authority, and Jesus gave it to his disciples to let everybody know who he was, the dragon, the Father, gave power to the beast, the son of perdition, and the son of perdition has his 10 disciples, and the false prophet, which is 11. You see what's going on here? So it's not the world saying who can make war with him. It's actually the angels proclaiming to the world who can make war with him. And I'm correcting that because in this playlist, I said it was, I interpreted it as the world saying that. But my whole interpretation still works, because in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, It says, and when they shall say, peace, peace, then cometh sudden destruction. Well, the sudden destruction is right here. Boom. Then all that stuff gets crazy. And why are they going to say peace, peace? Well, I think what's going to happen is that when the angels come down, the new United Nations was just destroyed, and they're coming in and setting up a supernatural government. And I think for a moment, the world is going to think, these are the guys that are here to help us out. And then the son of perdition is going to say, no, you got to worship my God and bow down to that, living idol of himself. And the world is going to realize this is not what we thought it was. Then cometh sudden destruction. The peace, peace is only going to be very, very brief. Because humanity in their naivety is going to actually believe for a moment that these supernatural beings who can travel at incredible speeds and have incredible power give a single flip about us. They don't. We're their enemies. You understand? So chapter 13, verse 4, and they, the angels, worship the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they, the angels, worship the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? All right. Now we're not done with the study. We're not done with the study. You see how I told you that these mysterious them, the them and the they, they're never named. They're always spoken of in these weird pronouns, like in Daniel 2, right? Here, Genesis 6, and they, right? Okay. Now watch this. Go to Luke. Go to Luke 17. I'm about to blow your mind. With everything I just taught you in mind, we're going to read this a little different, okay? Now, the way I applied the days of Noah is that the conditional rapture is the ark to the Great Tribulation. Now, when I applied it that way, I still believe that's a correct application, but the days of Noah has so many different applications in the Bible that you can't really fix it on like one thing, right? But let's talk about the doctrinal days of Noah, right? Luke chapter 17, verse 26. And as it was that is in the days of Noah, so shall it also be in the days of the Son of Man. Look, they did eat, they drank, they married wives, they were given in marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and the flood came and destroyed them all. Now, one way you can apply this is you can say, well, people are just apathetic and don't care until that day comes. Right? Now, we apply it that way for the church age. People are just eating and drinking and don't care until the ark closes, and now they're stuck on here, right? But that's a spiritual application. Like I said, there's a lot of ways to apply the days of Noah in the Bible. And I've even applied it this way, where I've taught that, well, the days of Noah could be that people are apathetic and they're eating and drinking and they don't care up until the flood happens, and then everything is said and done, right? But with everything I taught you in mind about these angel kings, let's read this in verse 27. They did eat, they drank, they married wives, and they were given in marriage. Let me ask you a question. In Genesis chapter 6, which is the only chapter we have directly about the days of Noah, do you read anything about anybody eating? Do you read anything about anybody drinking? But you do read about people giving in marriage, marrying wives. Who does it say in Genesis chapter 6 were marrying and giving in marriage? The angels. So if the they here is talking about the 10 angel kings that were marrying wives, then read it this way. They, the angels, did eat. They, the angels, drank. They married wives. So the question is, what did the angels eat? And what did the angels drink? It's getting real dark. Well, I'll tell you. They were eating men, and they were eating, and they were drinking blood and marrying women. You say, no, bro, there's just no way. Where did all of the idolatry come from after the days of Noah? Where did this idea come from that I have to give up my little baby to Moloch because I'm sacrificing it to a God that's eating the child. Where are they getting that idea from? It's coming from somewhere, guys. Why is that the first thing God forbid after Noah came off the boat is no drinking of blood? Why was that one of the first statutes that he gave him in the Noahic covenant? Why? He told him that you just pour the blood out into the dust. Don't drink the blood. And that's something that's banned in every testament, the Old and New Testament. Before the law, during the law, after the law, and in the millennium. The drinking of blood is forbidden. It is strictly forbidden. Why? Because somebody was doing that. And so what was happening is that these angels became the gods of humanity. And the humans began to worship angels. And they were sacrificing their kids to be eaten by the angels. So the angels were eating flesh and drinking blood. This is why God damns you to hell for idolatry. Because the idol represents the image of what was being practiced before the flood. So let's look at what the Bible says about... Actually, here's something interesting before I continue. Go to Exodus 32. Exodus chapter 32. This is when they're worshiping the golden calf. Exodus 32 verse 6. And they rose up early on the morrow and offered burnt offerings and peace offerings. And the people sat down to eat and to drink and rose up to play. That's sexual playing. That matches the days of Noah. They were eating, they were drinking, they were giving in marriage. In Exodus, the worship of this golden god was that they were eating and they were drinking and they rose up to play. Do you understand what's going on here? That's why God had them killed. Because this is an image. This is a picture of what was being practiced back then. Humanity was worshiping the angels. And idolatry is a callback to that. In all the false religions and all the mythology of the world, they have that. You can't tell me no, man. All the video games I used to play, that's all the themes and the tones of those games. Shin Megami Tensei, that's literally the theme of all those games. Humanity was worshiping the angels, but now they're fighting the gods because humanity wants to overcome the gods. That's the theme of all these games I used to play, dude. You don't have to tell me nothing. I know what's going on. Okay. Let's look at another detail. You say, what? We're not done? No, man. You already know me. My notes are stomped. My notes are crazy. All right. Let's look at another verse I want to discuss. Okay. 1 Corinthians chapter 8. 1 Corinthians chapter 8. Verse 5. For though there be that are called gods, whether in heaven or as other be gods many and lords many. But to us there is one God, the Father of whom are all things, and we in him, and one Lord, Jesus Christ, by whom are all things, and we by him. All right, check this out. Go to Exodus chapter 15. Exodus 15, verse 11. Who is like unto thee, O Lord, among the gods? God is among the gods. Use some context clue. Who are the gods? Exodus 18. Exodus 18, verse 11. Now I know that the Lord is greater than all gods. That's not just the idols, guys. That's not just the idols. 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians. Chapter 10. 1 Corinthians chapter 10. Verse 18. Behold, Israel after the flesh. Are not they which eat of the sacrifices partakers of the altar? What say I then? That the idol is anything, or that which is offered in sacrifice in idols is to anything? But I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils. Devils. Check this out. Leviticus 17. Leviticus 17. Leviticus chapter 17 and verse 7. And they shall no more offer their sacrifices unto devils. That's where Paul's getting it from. Paul's not quoting Leviticus, but he knows the law of Moses. And God repeatedly references in the law of Moses about the worship of devils. You understand? Keep going. Let's look at another one. Let's look at Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy 32. Deuteronomy 32. And verse 16. They provoked him to jealousy with strange gods, other gods, and with the abomination they provoked him to anger, they sacrificed, look, unto devils. Interesting. To devils. Okay. How about another one? 2 Chronicles chapter 11. 2 Chronicles chapter 11. 2 Chronicles 11 verse 14. For the Levites left their suburbs and their possession and came to Judah and Jerusalem, for Jeroboam and his sons had cast them off from executing the priest office unto the Lord. And he ordained him priests for the high places and for the devils. You see that? I'm not going to keep going and milking this. The strange gods, the other gods, which are the idols, are a reference. They are a picture of the angels that fell in Genesis, that humanity was worshiping, who were kings. So the worship of idols is the worship of the spirit behind that, which were devils. You understand? Let's wrap this up. Daniel chapter 7. I want to leave you off with a very interesting verse. Very interesting verse. Daniel chapter 7. Daniel chapter 7. Daniel. Look what it says about the little horn. Verse 8. And I considered the horns, and there came up among there another little horn. Why is it so interesting that God refers to the Antichrist as a little horn? Isn't that interesting? But look how much worse it is. Remember, every word of God is pure. Don't take any information for granted. It says in the second part of the verse, and behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. Well, if the son of perdition is the devil in the flesh, in the body of a man, what would be the point in God telling you that he has the eyes of a man and a mouth speaking great things? And to begin with, why would he call him a little horn? Well, maybe the devil has eyes like the eyes of a man. Maybe he does. And he has a mouth speaking great things. But what if the fact that he's a little horn is because he's a normal-sized man? Maybe he stands at a tall 6'5". But what if these 10 angel kings, they don't have the eyes like the eyes of a man? Or a mouth to speak great things? I don't know. It's something for you to think about. It's something for you to think about. So we're going to end the study there. So it means that in Daniel 11, the one dividing the land for gain, the son of perdition, and he gave them rule. He's giving power to these angel kings. And these 10 kings of the Antichrist are the angels of Genesis 6. I'll close it out on there. These studies, these next couple studies, if you thought this was hard, they're going to get harder. But I just pray you pray for wisdom. Check all the verses. Make the board available. Grace be to you all.